Pirate I Was Dug Up by Robin, Chapter 521-540. Chapter 521 Come Back to Onius Hall. Annie's lobby shakes. Open black lens bracket 1/4 close black lens bracket. Annie's lobby, Annie's hall. Because there is no night, it is daytime all year round, so it is also called the island that never sleeps. Annie's lobby and Marine Headquarters Marineford, Deep-Sea Prison Impel Down, are also known as the three major institutions of the world government. A few months ago, the myth that the Annie's lobby had been unbroken in 800 years was shattered. The entire Onius Hall was razed to the ground by Rollins. However, the miracle is that Marine stationed on the island has no one casualty. The only one who died was the commander of 9, Spandam. Likewise, only the dead Spandam really saw the identity of the man who broke the Annie's lobby. All the other sailors on the island were brought down by Conqueror Hockey before they could see Roland. This shocking event has also shaken for a while. However, because the government deliberately suppressed and downplayed it and wanted to cover up the existence of Luo Lin, it did not make much waves around the world. Over time, it was overshadowed by the big events that followed. To now, not many people are paying attention anymore. At noon. The space VV rippling in the main island clearing of Onius Hall. After a while. A woman, 2 figures stepped out of the space. This is the Annie's lobby. Feeling the ground under his feet, Robin's tender body trembled subconsciously. If Luo Lin is not dug underground in Alabasta, if nothing else happens, she will definitely set foot on this land as the son of the devil and the criminal of the world one day in the future. Symbolically, go through the empty court, enter the door of justice, and finally go to that. The great prison that never ends, and will never be turned over. A future, just thinking about it makes me hopeless. Fortunately, she is now accompanied by her hero. Looking at the man beside her, Robin's trembling heart gradually calmed down. The corners of the delicate mouth raised a touching arc. As long as Roland is by his side, not to mention Annie's lobby and Impel Down, how can even the Marine Headquarters let us go? Roland raised his hand and touched Robin's hair before speaking. Robin nodded obediently, took Luo Lin's arm naturally, and walked towards the main island gate. Uncle, thank you. Robin spoke suddenly. Well, you know. Roland spoke in surprise. For a while I thought Robin knew he was taking her to pick up Saul at Impel Down. But it seems that he has nothing. No what? Now it was Robin's turn to narrow his beautiful eyes suspiciously. It's nothing, I'll find out later. Roland grinned Isho. The skill of speaking. The two of Rollins walked through the main island gate. The vision ahead suddenly became clear. And craftsmen are busy rebuilding the Annie's lobby. When the two of Rollins passed through the gate, the surrounding Marines on duty finally discovered their existence. Hey, you. This is Justice. Are you? Several sailors rushed forward anxiously, just about to ask aloud. However, the words came to an abrupt end after only a few words were spoken. Because they recognized the identity of the person in front of them. After the Wei Sung Great Incident, the name of a hero is sung around the world. No one knows, especially among the Marines, the reputation of the hero Roland is already comparable to that of Sengoku and Garp, the two legends who have been in Marine for decades. Ying, hero. UUR, Rolo, Mr. Roland. The hero Mr. Roland is here. The seamen near the gate of Main Island all widened their eyes, and they were all in extreme shock, joy and excitement. For them, being able to get close contact with the legendary hero is like a dream. This is more joyful than winning the lottery. After all, what I see in front of me is not a virtual photo in the newspaper, but a real hero. The hero Mr. Roland is here. The excited shouts of the sailors spread throughout the island. It will be known to everyone on the island in the shortest possible time. Result, the entire Annie's lobby was shaken. All the sailors and craftsmen gathered on both sides of the road to applaud the arrival of the hero. Cheers like a tsunami of mountains and tsunamis resounded over the island that never sleeps. Uncle, Is this really okay? The Marine headquarters will know about it soon. Robin's eyes widened. No problem, I just want them to know. The purpose of his detour to Annie's lobby. With his spatial ability, to go to Impel Down, there is no need to go through the door of justice at all. Just cross it directly from the windless belt. But in that case, how would Sengoku, who was far away in the Marine headquarters, know that he was coming? He secretly detained his proud subordinate and imprisoned him in Impel Down to suffer for 20 years. Even after knowing that he was back, he secretly detained them and did not take the initiative to release them. Luo Lin is in a very bad mood right now. Didn't directly call the Marine headquarters to ask for an explanation. It was already based on the past. Take Robin to the Annie's lobby and enter Impel Down, the provocation of Kai Guago. After knowing this news, that old boy Sengoku. Hee. The corners of Luo Lin's mouth gradually raised an arc. Chapter 522 Marshal Sengoku is going crazy. Open black lens bracket 2/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. Headquarters Justice Building, Marshal's Office. Admiral Akainu, Vice Admiral Doberman, Yamakaji, Onagumo and other major marine generals gathered together. Summarize and review the Buster Call operation of the Waesung event. Akainu, this attack on the pirates of the convention has indeed achieved great results, but I will not praise you. Marshal Sengoku spoke in a deep voice. I know this, and there are things I really don't do well enough. Admiral Akainu nodded with an indifferent and calm face. I thought that his attitude should have been stronger. No need to worry too much, just cut first and then play. Bombing and killing the gateway island of Waesung together with the pirates hiding behind. It's good that you know. Sengoku nodded in relief. I thought that this guy Akainu is quite interesting. Knowing that it was a mistake to ruthlessly give up more than 20,000 sailors this time, things should change later. At the same time, Admiral Kuzan, who was resting on a beach chair, took off his blindfold. Looking at Akainu, and then at Sengoku, a suspicious look appeared on his face. Akainu and Mr. Sengoku, are they talking about the same thing? Admiral Kuzan expressed doubts. Forget it, this time, thanks to that guy Luo Lin, everyone finally survived, it's just. Thinking of the 40,000 sailors thrown into the arms of Waesung. And now those, the sailors who started to pack their bags and prepare to leave the headquarters. Sengoku couldn't help but have a headache and frowned. Mr. Sengoku, maybe it's not a bad thing to let the sailors go to Waesung. Zanjiao Vice Admiral Bastiu saw Sengoku's troubles and couldn't help but speak. That is to say, Marshal Sengoku, Mr. Roland is the hero of our marine. Everything Mr. Roland has done so far is to strive for world peace. It is also our marine's responsibility to fight against pirates and underground dark forces. There is no reason for Mr. Roland to face it alone. When the sailors go to Wachung, they can help Mr. Roland. The new generation Vice Admiral and Rear Admiral spoke up one after another. In response, Sengoku just still gritted his teeth and said nothing. The new generation of marine generals do not know, but he is very clear. If one is not good, everyone will face each other on the battlefield in the future. Mr. Sengoku, I think what everyone said is good, we don't need to be so clear about our own. Admiral Kuzan opened his mouth with a natural smile. Kuzan, you bastard. Hearing this, the creaking sound between Sengoku's teeth became clearer. This guy, Kuzan, clearly knows the reason. And what happened a few days ago, he hasn't settled with her yet. This is deliberately trying to piss him off. Sengoku covered his heart with one hand, and his anger continued. Marshal Sengoku. Bang bang bang. At this moment, a fierce knock on the door accompanied by the green-haired Commodore Branu's voice sounded outside the office door. Come in. Sengoku said angrily. Blano, what happened? Vice Admiral Yamakaji asked. Marshal Sengoku, Admiral, Vice Admirals, heroes. Mr. Roland is now on the Ennie's lobby. The green-haired Commodore Branu reported in shock. What did you say? Hearing the news, Sengoku stood up abruptly and slapped his hands on the desk, creating fine cracks. Mr. Roland at Eni's lobby. What kind of wind is this blowing? What does the hero Roland go to Eni's lobby? Is Mr. Roland going back to the headquarters? Vice Admiral and Rear Admirals in the office were either shocked, puzzled, or excited to guess. That guy, is it finally here? Sengoku's face was almost twisted together, and he glared at Admiral Kuzan. Ah ha ha. Admiral Kuzan bared his teeth, let out a ha-ha, put down his blindfold, and started to fall asleep. Marshal Sengoku. The green-haired Commodore Branu spoke again. Is there anything else? Sengoku said angrily. According to the report, this time Mr. Roland. He didn't come alone. Brittany said timidly. Tell me, who else? Sengoku asked. Mr. Roland took. With Nico Robin, the son of the devil. Branu said weakly. Nani? Bang, the cracks on the desk suddenly became denser. Bring Nicole Robin with me. What the hell is that guy trying to do? He wants to piss me off, doesn't he? Sengoku clutched his heart desperately, driven by his anger. His breathing gradually became less smooth. I just felt my heart and lungs get congested. Mr. Sengoku, I've said it a long time ago, let's take the initiative to release people, you won't listen. Admiral Kuzan lay on his back and opened his mouth with a smile. Kuzan, you bastard. Sengoku is about to be tossed insane. The other side. Listening to the inexplicable conversation between Sengoku and Kuzan, Admiral Akainu and others in the room couldn't help but look suspicious. Marshal Sengoku, why did Mr. Roland take Nico Robin to the Eni's lobby too? Forget it. Wait, after the Rear Admiral finished speaking, Sengoku interrupted. You don't have to worry about this, just go back first. Sengoku waved his hand weakly. Yes. Everyone took orders and turned to go out. Blano. Yes. The green-haired Commodore Branu stood up in horror. Go to the impel down side and let Magellan prepare for the shock. Chapter 523 Ein's Order. Open the door of justice with your bare hands. Open black lens bracket 3/4 close black lens bracket. Right above the red earth continent. Holy Land, Mariajoy, Central White Jade Hall. The 5 supreme powers in the world sit, stand, or lie down, each silent. The atmosphere in the hall was unusually condensed. Not long ago, the news that Roland and Robin appeared at the Eni's lobby naturally reached their ears. HMPH, that bastard, do you finally know that you are afraid? Is it too late to bring Nico Robin, the son of the devil, to show us? Gorosei, 5 elders with aristocratic curly hair snorted. The remaining 4 old stars. Even if you think about it with your feet, you can't come to this conclusion. Could it be that all of us except? An idiot sensed the subtle gaze from his comrades, and a look of annoyance flashed across the face of the curly-haired Gorosei, 5 elders. Of course I also know that this is impossible. Isn't this trying to liven up the atmosphere? Curly-haired Gorosei, 5 elders defended himself. The other 4 old stars. This joke is not funny at all. The sword-wielding warrior Lao Xing, whose body was covered with bandages, took a deep breath and suppressed the pain in his heart. HMPH, the Eni's lobby was razed to the ground last time. If he wants to do anything this time, if he dares to make a mess, he will announce everything and ruin his so-called hero. The bald-headed birthmark Lao Xing spoke ruthlessly. All calm down and don't make the same mistakes as 36 years ago. Gorosei, 5 elders, with long snow-white beards and long hair, in a dark blue suit, shouted. Now is the period when that guy's momentum is at its peak. If everything is announced and completely torn apart, it will do more harm than good. At least wait for the heat to cool down. Besides, boiling a frog in warm water and cutting the flesh with a dull knife will always be more painful. As I said before, this will be a long-term tug of war. All we have to do is let him make his own mistakes and take off his own heroic halo. Of course we are aware of this kind of thing, but it's just that bastard is too deceiving. Curly-haired Gorose, 5 elders grieves. Don't worry, the old man has already learned from Sora about the reason why he went to Eni's lobby. What's the reason? It has something to do with Saul, the traitorous giant who was secretly protected by Kuzan 20 years ago. Not surprisingly, that Roland bastard's target this time is not Eni's lobby, but Impel Down. The old star in the dark blue suit spoke in a deep voice. It turned out to be Impel Down. How could it be possible for him to succeed in wanting to go to the infinite hell to save people? If it spreads out, what's our face? It must be stopped. If it is not stopped, then the person he wants to save will be executed in advance. The Gorose, 5 elders spoke in anger. No. Just then, after hearing the decision of the curly-haired Gorose, 5 elders to execute Saul. Lying on the hospital bed, the blonde old star who attended the meeting with serious injuries showed an extremely frightened expression on his face, and his emotions were suddenly excited. The ferocious wound under the bandage burst, and the gauze was stained red with blood. Calm down, so I said earlier, it's better for you to rest alone. The samurai old star, who had the same disease as the blonde old star, sighed. You can't kill that giant, it will completely anger that monster. The pale face of the blonde old star was full of horror, already terrified. Of the blonde old star, everyone in the room frowned. Don't worry, Lord Yimu has an order first, don't start a full-scale war with him for the time being. The old star in the dark blue suit said solemnly. Then just watch him take people away from Impel Down. The bald-headed birthmark star was indignant. It's just a mere giant prisoner. It doesn't matter if he takes him away. The most important thing is how much we can do in this matter. The article reduces his heroic aura. The old star in the dark blue suit sneered. At the same time. Eni's lobby, Eni's hall. Start at the main island gate. Roland walked slowly with Robin, crossing the island under the excited gazes of tens of thousands of sailors and craftsmen. In the end, he jumped down from the waterfall bridge and climbed to the ruins where the original judicial tower was located. Sengoku should already know that I'm here. Luo Lin thought to himself, and the corner of his mouth raised an arc. Uncle. Robin opened his beautiful eyes and looked at Luo Lin with a puzzled face. Let's go, then let's speed up a little bit. Roland grinned Isho. Swish, a moment later. Roland took Robin to the Bridge of Hesitation. That's the door of justice. Look at the huge portal that can't see the end in sight. Robin couldn't help but hold his breath in shock. Hero Roland, please stop. Marine, who was in charge of the gate, saw Luo Lin's arrival, and he was excited but did not forget his mission. The door of justice is ahead. If Mr. Roland is here for sightseeing, it is enough to go here. Marine, who was in charge of the gate, spoke with a serious face. Hey, what if I said I wanted to go and see it? Roland smiled. This, please don't embarrass us, Mr. Roland. Without the above order, the door of justice will never be opened. A fine cold sweat appeared on Colonel Marine's forehead, biting his head. Don't be afraid, it won't make you embarrassed, I didn't want you to help me gate of opening. Roland smiled. Really? Hearing this, the face of the gatekeeper colonel immediately showed a look of joy. However, in the next second, the smile that appeared on his face solidified, and then turned into shock, beyond words. I'll just push it away myself. Roland grinned. Chapter 524 Come to Impel Down. Open black lens bracket 4/4 for full order, custom order close black lens bracket. Of justice is huge and majestic. Soaring into the clouds, I do not know how high. Such a behemoth, to turn it on, relies on the switch device of the control tower. It's just that if the power of the individual is strong enough, how can even the gate of justice as heavy as a mountain stop? Uncle, are you serious? Robin wrapped his arms around Luo Lin's waist, widening his beautiful eyes in shock. When did I ever joke? Roland grinned. Grab me well and don't fall off, little girl Robin. While speaking, Luo Lin raised his right hand, imprinting on the huge portal in front of him with the power of this world. Boom! When Luo Lin's palm fell on the Gate of Justice, the huge Gate of Justice suddenly roared. Fuck! On the control tower of the Gate of Justice, a skinny sailor who was in charge of controlling the switch suddenly widened his eyes and exclaimed, fuck! What a surprise! Another sailor who was dozing was dissatisfied. I just seem to see the door of justice moving. The thin sea soldier still had a ghostly expression on his face, and stammered, ha 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 ha, are you an idiot or a newcomer? This is the door of justice, you can only open it through this. The Ennie's lobby patted the console in front of him. Just as the veteran's voice fell, a face slap followed. Rumbling, the world is moving. The sea surges. What happened to me %? What the hell is going on? 10-year-old gatekeeper was shocked, and the whole person instantly came to his senses. Qianqianchin, senior, look over there, the door of justice. As opened. Gatekeeper recruit pointed in the direction of the Gate of Justice with trembling fingers, and shouted in shock. Nani? The gatekeeper's eyes widened in horror and shock, and his gaze followed recruit's direction. The huge Gate of Justice, which was closed tightly, suddenly lit up with a slight ray of light. Immediately after, the bright light quickly extended towards the sky and towards the sea. The veterans who have been guarding the door for 10 years here are like the Tao. That bright line was shining through on the other side of the gate. The Gate of Justice was really opened. It was pushed open by someone without going through the opening of the control tower. Senior, look over there, there is a person in front of the Gate of Justice. The sharp-eyed goalkeeper recruit screamed. The bridge of hesitation. The colonel who was responsible for coordinating the Gate of Justice also saw the bright sky. An emotion called shock came out of his heart and quickly occupied his whole body. Ling's whole person was like petrification, standing in place, motionless. Gudong, it's really pushed away. Hero Roland, is he a god? The guard colonel murmured in shock. Rumble rumble, was watched by the shocked and extremely shocked gazes of the guards. The sky on the other side of the gate became brighter and brighter, and finally came out. Huge, heavy mountain-like door of justice was completely pushed open. The turbulent currents and tides rushed out from behind the door, rolling up a stormy sea. It's really heavy, but it's okay. Roland smiled. Robin. Seeing this shocking scene, she was completely speechless. God, his meow is all right. Seeing how easy you are, uncle, you don't spend much vigor. Robin couldn't help thinking. Hee hee. For what Robin was thinking, Luo Lin couldn't help laughing. Isho. Thoughts flew in my mind. Of opening the door of justice with his bare hands, Roland had thought about giving it a try decades ago. There was even a verbal bet with Garp. If Luo Lin can really open the door of justice, Garp will recognize Luo Lin as his eldest brother, the kind of a lifetime. Now that it's finally realized, I just don't know if Garp's guy will be playing tricks. But these are things for the future. The next most important thing is naturally Sol in Impel Down. Come on, little girl Robin, I'll take you to see a friend right away. Roland smiled. Take me to meet a friend in Impel Down. Hearing Luo Lin's words that seemed to be in a fog, big question marks appeared one after another on Robin's little head, and his pretty face was full of puzzlement. But since Roland said so, she should be able to look forward to it for a while. Maybe today can really meet unexpected people, not necessarily. Robin nodded. Swish, space rippling. The figures of Luo Lin disappeared in an instant. 3 minutes later, a huge building like a beast appeared in the sight of both Roland and Robin. Impel Down, which has made countless pirates on the sea terrified, has arrived. Chapter 525. Here comes the hero. Impel Down vibrates. Open black lens bracket 1/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. The endless blue sea, without any waves. In it stood a solitary grand building. Marine headquarters parked on the periphery of this building, and they are surrounded by them, and they are truly impregnable. This is the deep-sea prison known as the Iron Wall, Impel Down. Since its establishment, except for the flying pirate Golden Lion Shiki who broke his legs and escaped with his own fluttering fruit ability, no one else has successfully escaped from prison. Of course, this is the only instance in recorded history. In addition, there is another unknown escapee in this large prison. The prisoner is now the commander of the Western Army under the Revolutionary Army Dragon, and the person who pushes the fruit, Morley, the giant monster. 80 years before the Golden Lion Shiki, and 100 years ago, the giant Morley created 15 layers of hell, quietly escaped successfully. The world's largest prison. Impel Down is where the world's most vicious criminals are imprisoned. Every day, the main theme that haunts the prison is screams and blood. But today is an exception. At this moment, the atmosphere in this deep-sea prison is obviously not right. Beep, 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 the piercing red siren echoed through the prison. This is the Alert Level 1 siren at Impel Down, Grand Prison. Listening to the alarm that represented the highest level of vigilance, the guards in the entire large prison could not help but look horrified. Under the command of the commander, the highest level interception net was deployed. At the same time, Impel Down has 4 underground floors, a searing hell. This is the core office area in Impel Down. Wearing a black trench coat with small black wings, the Impel Down director Magellan was dressed like a devil. At this time, he was sitting at the desk with a dignified face, and contacted the Marine headquarters through the phone bug. The door of the PATA director's office was violently pushed open from the outside, and a tall man with a big belly came in. The person who came is naturally the deputy director of this deep-sea prison, Hannibal. Magellan, what's the matter with you all of a sudden? Why are you flying a plane? This director. No, the good dreams of this deputy director are all disturbed by you. Deputy Director Hannibal entered the door. He made accusations and questions. If something goes wrong in the big prison because of this abnormality, the hat will be lost. Think about it carefully. If you get caught, the next director's position must belong to me. It seems not bad to think so. Hannibal didn't close the door in his heart, but he slipped his mouth unconsciously, and said all the real thoughts in his heart. Hannibal, I'm already busy enough here. If you really have nothing to do, just go and check around. Magellan stroked his forehead helplessly. Suddenly, his 2 strands tightened, and a purple poison gas bomb was sprayed out, which spread in the room, and the poisonous Hannibal even turned green. Well, it's not good. I'm careless, sly Magellan, but I won't fall down, I'm still the director. Hannibal threw this sentence away and stepped out against the wall with tenacious will. Director Magellan, the defense network at all levels of the prison has been deployed. Shortly after Hannibal went out to breathe. Wearing a woman's brown tight-fitting guard dress and keeping ahead. A tall and beautiful girl with bright golden wavy long hair, Impel Down Deputy Guard Domino hurriedly arrived to report to Magellan the various changes in the great prison. Well, then let everyone stand by. Magellan nodded. But Director Magellan, what the hell is going on today? Why is it suddenly on alert level 1? Domino asked. I don't know the details, but this is a direct order from Marshal Sengoku to prepare us for the greatest shock in history. Magellan asked solemnly. What? Hear the words. An expression of extreme shock and horror appeared on the beautiful face of Deputy Warden Domino. Marshal Sengoku's order. The strongest shock in history. Unbelievable. In short, this crisis can only be resisted by us for the time being, and we are instructed to go on and prepare for the first-level battle. Magellan said solemnly, Director Magellan, the blue orangutans can fight. Saldeth, the head of Impel Down Prison, who is as small as a child, arrives. In the charming nasal voice, Sadie-chan, a sexy and beautiful girl in a pink restraint suit, walked over with a catwalk. Director, my babies, the 4 jailer beasts have always been in their best condition, no matter. No enemy is afraid of, E.H. Warden Chief Sadie-chan said. That would be better. The solemnity in Magellan's expression eased a little. Blue is here. The contact phone worm on the desk suddenly rang. Hey, this is Magellan, what's going on? Magellan connected to the phone bug. Mike my, Director Magellan, the trespasser. The trespasser has appeared. The guards on the first floor of the C screamed in horror. Ah! That person is. Another jailer screamed in shock, as if he had seen the most incredible person or thing in the world. Jailer, calm down, who is the intruder? Magellan stopped shouting. Report to Director Magellan, then that person is a hero. Here comes the hero Roland. What did you say? Chapter 526 Magellan, have you grown up 2/4 for subscription? The endless windless sea, a large prison like an ancient beast crawled alone in the middle of the sea. The sky was covered with dark clouds, as if the grievances of the prisoners who had died here for 800 years were condensed. Year-round, this large prison is increasingly set off by a ghostly atmosphere. Just looking at it from a distance makes people feel goosebumps involuntarily. Is that the legendary deep-sea prison, impelled down? Above the sky, Robin was condescending, looking at the big prison with the cold air below, and unconsciously felt a burst of heart palpitations. Afraid, little girl Robin. Roland embraced Robin's slender waist and asked with a smile. Under the infection of Roland's spring-like smile, Robin's heart palpitations disappeared in an instant. With Uncle here, don't be afraid. Robin shook his head firmly. Then go down. Roland grinned. One step down. The atmosphere suddenly swayed with ripples visible to the naked eye. With Luo Lin as the center, it spreads in all directions. Then it is reversed to heaven. Boom, seems to have an invisible big hand stirring the situation. That shrouded the great prison impelled down all year round seemed to be torn apart by an invisible big hand, causing a violent wave. It finally fell apart. The sky shines from here. I don't know how many years have passed. The warm sun shines on the cold deep-sea prison once again. Dispels a little gloom in this place. Feeling a certain terrifying breath from the sky, and the sudden sunlight that shone down. Marine fleet who were in charge of guarding around the great prison were all shocked and looked up at the sky subconsciously. The sky is clear. It's been years since this happened. This cloud condensed by the grievances of the undead has dissipated. What the hell is going on? The sailors on the warship screamed in shock. Hey, look, there seems to be someone in the sky. A sailor on the observation deck suddenly shouted. Hear the words. The sailors on the warship all followed the direction of the watchman in unison. People in the dazzling sun could not open their eyes. But they still vaguely saw the figure that fell from the sky. Over time. It was like a god walking one step at a time. The figure below gradually became clear. Gradually dilate in people's pupils. The emotions called shock and excitement quickly spread through the crowd, and eventually spread to the entire prison. The person is. I've seen it in the newspapers. Can't be wrong. That person is. Hero Mr. Roland. The excited shouts of tens of thousands of sailors on the warship resounded through the sky and sea. Ling's calm and waveless windless belt is full of waves. With the sailors on the Ennie's lobby. After reading the reports about the Waesung event, Marine officers and soldiers stationed at Impel Down have a lot to say about Marine's other hero 36 years ago. The reverence for the hero who single-handedly defeated the two great alliances of the four emperors was no less than that of others. Such characters who existed in legends and newspapers actually came to them. Seeing them up close, how could this not make the sailors excited and happy? If it wasn't because they had responsibilities and couldn't move around at will, they would definitely swarm them at the first time. Around Impel Down are watching with excited and longing eyes. With Robin, Luo Lin descended to the mortal world step by step like an immortal companion in the sky. Finally at the gate entrance of Impel Down, before landing, stands still. Hero. Really that, hero. There can be no mistake, that person is really the hero Roland. Exactly as reported in the newspapers. The hero Roland came to our Impel Down, what's the point of doing it? The gatekeepers of Impel Down also widened their shocked eyes and screamed in shock. Director Magellan, the person here is a hero. The missing marine hero Roland is here. In their hearts, and immediately reported the shocking news to Magellan, the director of the 4th underground floor. Nani. Then came the shocking uproar from the phone bug. Then came the sound of chaotic footsteps. That was Magellan and other prison executives in action. Uncle, you can tell me now, who are you taking me to see today? Robin tilted his head curiously to look at Roland. Go ahead and talk about it. Roland took the lead. Seeing Roland walking towards them, the jailers, who had never had such an experience, were at a loss for a moment. He stepped back subconsciously, making way for Roland. The atmosphere on the first floor of Impel Down is solemn. In front of the legendary hero, the ruthless jailers in the past did not even dare to breathe. Looking at Roland, there was excitement and fear in his eyes. Crackling, suddenly. From the elevator shaft in the center of the first floor, there was a rattling sound of iron chains. It means that the elevator that can reach any floor is rising rapidly. After a minute. When Luo Lin took Luo Lin to the elevator shaft. The elevator also happens to rise to the upper floor. The elevator door opened. The high-level prisoners headed by Director Magellan stepped out in unison. Yo, Magellan, you've really grown up. Roland grinned. Chapter 527 Childhood Idol. Excited Magellan. Open black lens bracket 3/4 close black lens bracket. The elevator in the Kalala elevator shaft descends at the fastest speed. Just a minute or so before and after. The elevator went from the 4th underground floor of the searing hell to the 1st floor of the sea. The elevator door opened. The deep-sea prison Impel Down, a group of high-level managers headed by Director Magellan filed out. Just happened to meet Luo Lin and Robin who were walking towards the elevator shaft. Yeah, really, Ying, hero. Ghostin looks like Prajna, saw Roland. An emotion called shock quickly took over his entire body. Hannibal was so shocked that he stuttered and couldn't even utter a complete sentence. Hero Roland, really the legendary hero. Tall, curvaceous blonde and beautiful girl deputy head Domino widened a pair of beautiful eyes and couldn't help but let out a coquettish cry. Well, is this the hero man? I really look much more handsome than the newspaper, it's fascinating. Sadie Chan, who was wearing a pink leather coat, twisted with a clenched grip, and his teeth nibbled at his red lips. This person's aura, so high, is he a god? Short, childlike prison chief Saldeth raised his head and looked up at Luo Lin who was not far away, thinking in shock. 4. Domino, Sadie Chan, and others, Luo Lin had never heard of them. From start to finish. Luo Lin's eyes only fell on the tall man in the windbreaker with small black wings. The curvature of the corners of his mouth widened a little involuntarily. Same. Prison Director Magellan didn't pay any attention to the shock of his subordinates. After walking out of the elevator, Magellan's eyes were only firmly locked on the man not far away. Looking at the face that was familiar with Magellan's perennial sickness as always, a few strands of ruddy cold excitement appeared. Those long-term memories that had been buried deep in Magellan's mind gradually revived. Those were years in the distant decades ago. In Impel Down. Magellan also spent his childhood in prison. From the moment he was born, what he saw in front of his eyes was all kinds of bloody pictures, and the screams of people echoed in his ears. And raised in such an extreme environment, one can imagine how dark Magellan's childhood was. Paramecia poisonous fruit early by mistake. It was even more so that Magellan was alone in his childhood, and no one dared to approach him. The darkness in his heart was also derived from this. This continued until he was 5 years old. One day 40 years ago, while playing on the first floor of the sea, he met the only person who was not afraid of his poisonous poison, and was also the most important life mentor in his life, Luo Lin, who was Vice Admiral of the Marine Headquarters. 4 years after that. Childhood Magellan's most important thing every month is waiting for Roland's arrival. The agreement between the two of them lasted for 4 years. It finally ended one day 36 years ago. Magellan thought he would never see that man here again in his life. It wasn't until a week ago that reports of the Waisung incident came. Only then did Magellan know that the person he once dreamed of had really come back. Still the same as always, handsome. Now, only a week after learning that good news. The man he once idolized in his childhood is back. 36 years later, seeing his childhood idol once again with his own eyes, the emotion called excitement flooded Magellan's heart uncontrollably. "It's really you, Mr. Rollins!" Magellan exclaimed with joy, and his voice rumbled, echoing in the first layer of space. "Ah, Magellan, haven't seen you for decades, and you have grown up thoroughly, not bad." Roland grinned. "Ah." Listen to the familiar greeting between Magellan and Roland. Hannibal, Saldeth, Domino, and Sadie-chan all showed shocking expressions on their faces. My. Magellan, do you know him? Know that hero?" Hannibal's voice was still stuttering, very shocking. "Are the director and the legendary hero old acquaintances?" Domino and Sadie-chan looked at each other, and their two small mouths opened into a shape. Not just Domino and others on the opposite side, who came with Roland, also had a look of surprise on his pretty face. Even the director of prison at Impel Down is a fan of Uncle. How wide is Uncle's network? Robin couldn't help but think in shock. Chapter 528 Heroes or Trespassers. Magellan is stunned. Open black lens bracket 4/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. "Mr. Roland, it's great, it's really great, I'm so happy to see you again." On the first floor of Impel Down, Magellan's joyful cry echoed. Whose face was always drooping, was now full of joy because of his ability to poison and poison fruit. Arms are open, wanting to give a reunion hug to the former idol. But thinking of his poisonous constitution, he hurriedly retracted his hands. Conversing with Isho, he seemed a little helpless. He, don't be nervous, Magellan, have you forgotten that I'm not afraid of poison?" Roland smiled, raised his hand and patted Magellan's shoulder twice. "Yes." Magellan responded. He opened his arms and hugged Luo Lin symbolically. Who is 3 meters tall, is still a little worse than the current Magellan. "You've grown so much compared to when you were a child, Magellan." Roland laughed. Hey. Magellan smirked in embarrassment, raised his hand and scratched the back of his head. "By the way, Mr. Roland, I received a call from Marshal Sengoku just now that our Impel Down is about to suffer the strongest impact in history, but now that Mr. Roland is here, no matter who comes, there is nothing to be afraid of," Magellan said with a relaxed expression. Roland frowned slightly. The expression on his face gradually became strange. "What did Sengoku tell you?" Roland asked. "The hero Mr. Roland, Marshal Sengoku contacted that someone will break into our Impel Down underground 6 floors of infinite hell and take away the prisoners. We have made preparations for the first time. If Mr. Roland is willing to help, even Whitebeard will definitely let him go back and forth this time." Domino, the deputy warden of the prison, said. Hearing this, behind Luo Lin, Robin's pretty face gradually became strange. "That's right, even the 4 emperors, Whitebeard, can't get anything cheap." Magellan's oath. And, as if thinking of something, he looked at Luo Lin again. "By the way, Mr. Roland, what are you doing here at Impel Down this time? Magellan asked. Oh, it's no big deal. My former one has been locked up here for 20 years, and I'm here to take him away today. Roland spoke in a relaxed and freehand manner. That's it, it's not a big deal. It's a fart. Deputy Commissioner Hannibal couldn't help crying. He seemed to have thought of something, and extreme shock and horror appeared on his Prajna-like face. Not just Hannibal. Sadie Chan, Saldeth, Domino and director Magellan also came back to their senses one after another and heard the meaning of Roland's words. They realized that the hero in front of them, Roland, may be the one that Marshal Sengoku said. The one who will cause the strongest impact in the history of Impel Down. This is really the strongest impact. Magellan, Domino, Sadie-chan and other prison executives are all stunned. After a while, Magellan finally recovered from the shock. Mr. Roland, the one you mentioned. Our subordinate who has been imprisoned for 20 years. It is not so coincidental, it happens to be in infinite hell. Magellan's face was no longer happy, and he asked with a sad face. Originally I wasn't sure, but since Sengoku said it, it should be on the 6th floor. Roland smiled. Mr. Roland, this. When he knew that the situation was indeed as he expected. Roland is the one who is about to break into the 6th floor of Impel Down. Prison robbery. Purple poison droplets dripped from his tangled face. Domino, Sadie-chan and the others were horrified, unable to say a word. Chatting and laughing for so long before and even wanted to be a helper turned out to be the intruder. Who can stand this? Ha ha ha, I am sorry, Magellan, but I have to take people away today. I know you have your responsibilities, so don't take your past feelings into account, and try your best to stop me, just in time. And let me see how much you have grown over the years. Roland grinned. Hearing this, the venom on Magellan's face gradually solidified. The tangled color on his face gradually eased. It means that his troubled heart is also at peace. Well, in that case, Mr. Roland, as the director of Impel Down, I will do my best to stop you. Magellan made up his mind and spoke firmly. However, before he finished speaking, Magellan was stunned again. Because Luo Lin who was in front of him suddenly disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the little black long straight girl who followed Luo Lin disappeared. Ah! Magellan was stunned again. What about them? Dwarf Saldeth is also confused. That, the hero should have left, ha ha ha, if that's the case, then let's go, go back to each family to find their own mother, the crisis is lifted, the alarm is lifted. Hannibal smiled with a forced smile on his face. Well, how could the handsome hero leave without saying hello, and then? Happy hunting time. Sadie-chan looked eager to try. This is the power of the legendary hero, don't tell me. Domino turned abruptly and looked in the direction of the elevator shaft. Everyone, get on the elevator quickly, prepare to go to the infinite hell, and notify all the prison troops, the jailer beasts, to guard the stairs on the 5th and 6th floors of the basement. Magellan took the plunge. Chapter 529 Conqueror that exploded in infinite hell open black lens bracket 1/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. Impel Down, the deep-sea prison, has 6 underground levels of infinite hell. This is the bottom floor of the world's largest prison. It is also a top-secret place to be hidden. Ordinary people on the sea only know that Impel Down has 5 levels of hell, and the level of terror is better than the level of terror. And know that Impel Down also has a top-secret 6 underground floors. In this bottommost floor hell are all those amazing characters in the sea, and the bounty strength is more than 100 million the last time. Here is the real monster concentration camp. The infinite hell where the world's most vicious gangsters gather, the atmosphere will naturally not be so harmonious. Even if they are bound by chains and cages, they cannot fight. Noisy is always there. Today's infinite hell is still as noisy as ever. Just then, at the exit of the elevator shaft of infinite hell, The atmosphere suddenly twisted without warning. Kid, look over there. A cage not far from the elevator shaft. A ruthless man with blonde hair like a lion's mane. Killer, a slaughter warrior with a bounty of over 100 million. Noticed the unusual fluctuations in the air not far away, and subconsciously spoke in shock. That's. A few months ago, the supernova arrested in the Battle of Chinfin Island, a new monster with a bounty of over 300 million. Captain Eustace Kidd's pupils shrank suddenly, as if he saw the most shocking and incredible thing in the world. That person is. Under the shocked and horrified eyes of Killer and Kid. The folded space cracked open. A man and a woman walked out of the space calmly and appeared in this infinite hell. Looking at the man who suddenly appeared, how could Kid and Killer remain calm again? Because that is the most terrifying nightmare in their hearts. A few months ago, it was that man who crushed their pirate ship with absolute power, crushed their confidence, and crushed their pride and all their efforts at the same time. In the face of that man's absolute power, their so-called determination and will is nothing but a joke. After that incident, Kid, who was beaten into impel down, thought that they would never meet again in this life. He didn't want to see that. A man who was so powerful and cruel that he didn't change in his life. However, things are always impermanent, and fate has always been wonderful. Kid and Killer never thought about it. They have all been cast into the impel-down infinite hell, reduced to a never-ending situation, and they can see that terrifying man again. To make matters worse, the other party seems to have seen them too. Yo, the little devils of the new era, have you ever had a good time to reflect here? Roland was in the Kid's prison and smiled. Kid suppressed the throbbing in his heart and the trembling in his body, snorted coldly, and turned around to shut himself up. Who the hell are you and why are you here? Compared to Kid's arrogant turn, Killer finally lost to his own curiosity. He wants to know Roland's identity. More want to know the reason why Rollins is here. Hee, don't be afraid, I won't trouble you, I'm just here to pick up a brother today. Roland grinned isho. Nani? Hearing Roland's understated tone, Killer was completely stunned. Kid's body in wall-faced autism is also stiff. Isn't this a prison robbery? How bold is it to invade the deep-sea prison impel down to save people? Little devils, you should continue to reflect here, see you next time. Roland finally said a word, and then Robin turned around with a shocked expression and walked towards the depths of the infinite hell. The brief conversation between Kid, Killer and Roland is naturally impossible to go unnoticed. When seeing that someone can move freely in the infinite hell, especially after it is an alien invader. The criminals in the cages around were all excited. Hey, little brother and little girl over there, how did you get out? If you don't mind, please let me out too. A bearded pirate greeted with a kind face, but his squinted eyes were full of bloodthirsty meaning. Hey, little brother over there, as long as you open my prison door, I will hide somewhere outside. All the mountain-like goings on this island are for you. In addition, the pirates made a promise. Little brother, no, master, let me out, I will follow you all my life and obey your orders. Bald-headed pirate with scars knelt down reverently. Mother, let the old lady out, and the old lady will be aggrieved to be your woman. The long-nosed crescent moon hunter Katerina, seduced, said. Stinky boy, let me out. Otherwise, I will tear you to pieces. And the pirates screamed viciously. Let me out now. ... Over time, more and more prisoners noticed the existence of the two free men, Roland and Robin. So the infinite hell, which was already very noisy, became more and more lively, all of a sudden. Listening to the shouts of the vicious pirates around me, I felt the ferocity coming towards me. Robin, who was experiencing this terrible scene for the first time, couldn't help but turn pale. Uncle. Robin looked at Roland. Don't be afraid, it will be quiet soon. Roland grinned isho. Boom, next second. The endless turbulent conqueror hockey exploded from the infinite hell. Chapter 530 Shaking Infinite Hell. Open black lens bracket 2/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. When Roland took Robin, he roamed freely in this infinite hell like a stroll in a garden. Wherever you go, it's inevitable. Except the jailer guards at the great prison. The prisoners here have never seen that outsiders can enter and exit this infinite hell at will. After confirming that Roland was not a prison guard, the prisoners' minds became more active. Desperately wanting to get out through the hands of Llewellyn and escape from this damn big prison. Kinds of temptations, promises and even death threats came one after another, making the already noisy infinite hell more and more lively. Those who are qualified to be imprisoned in infinite hell are all extremely vicious murderers. When the brutal aura of dozens, hundreds, or even hundreds of vicious criminals condenses, one can imagine the psychological impact on people who had experienced such a terrifying scene for the first time, had already turned pale on his delicate little face. The slender hands are also cold, full of delicate cold sweat. Vivi, who was holding Llewellyn's delicate body, trembled unconsciously. Feeling the fear of the little girl beside him, Llewellyn's face gradually turned cold. The good mood that he was about to meet his brother was also ruined by the noise of the prisoners. "It's really noisy," Roland said indifferently. "Ha ha. What did you say, brat? If you are acquainted with each other, hurry up and let this uncle out. The little girl beside you is not bad, I want it." The prisoners in the previous cages were still screaming incessantly. "Don't be afraid, little girl Robin, and let them be quiet right away." The screams of the prisoners were ignored. Roland looked at Robin beside him, gentle Isho, and a warm big hand gently caressed Robin's head. Under the comfort of Llewellyn's warm big hand, Robin's pale face recovered a bit of blood, and he nodded lightly. "As expected of my girl." Roland grinned Isho. The right foot suddenly moved forward. One step down. The world turned upside down. Boom! The most terrifying ultimate conqueror Tyrannosaurus surged out of his body. "Shut me all up." The storm-like conqueror swept through the entire infinite hell with the sound of Roland's broken drink. Every criminal in the infinite hell of order is a stagnation. The original noisy noise suddenly stopped. The whole hell fell into a momentary silence. But the next second, more terrifying things happened. The airtight infinite hell space suddenly had the wind. Not an ordinary wind. It's the wind of hockey, with Roland as the center. The terrifying hockey storm suddenly formed and expanded rapidly in all directions. Rumble, the whole huge infinite hell shook violently at this moment. Ah! Prisoners were shocked and screamed in horror. "What the hell is this? It's so painful, my spirit seems to be torn apart. Ah, this is hockey. Conqueror's hockey. How is it possible? How can Conqueror's hockey be so powerful? What the hell is going on? What the hell are you bastard?" The vicious criminals around Roland couldn't help but screamed in extreme horror. Under the storm of hockey. They are like grass without roots, beaten mercilessly by the storm. But what scares them even more is the back, accompanied by a sour creaking sound. The chains that protected them from the storm broke. Losing the restraint of the chains, their bodies were rolled up uncontrollably by the storm, mercilessly hitting the stronger cage. In an instant, the bones were broken, and the blood spattered from both body and spirit made the prisoners almost collapse. Boom rumble, the thunderous rumble resumed. This horrific hockey storm show to the top of Seastone made an overwhelming clicking sound. Then it rose from the ground under the storm of hockey. With those prisoners who were either seriously injured or unconscious, or turned into corpses, they rose into the sky, fluttered in the air, and collided. The end, it was squeezed by an invisible big hand, kneaded into a huge iron lump, and fell heavily on the ground. So far, the most terrifying hockey storm show in the world is finally over. The huge Impel Down has 6 underground floors, infinite hell, the audience is dead. Chapter 531 Giant Sol Tears of Joy Open black lens bracket 3/4 close black lens bracket. Boom! A large iron lump made up of a dozen cages, lost its strength and fell on the ground of the infinite hell, making a final bang. What followed was a long, unspeakable silence. The breath and image of Roland's terrifying hockey storm made the originally noisy infinite hell instantly silent, and fell into a dead silence. Kudong, kudong, sizzle, after a while, the various areas of the infinite hell. The vicious thugs gasped in horror and the stunned Adam's apple rolled one after another, one after another. Those who can be qualified to be imprisoned in this infinite hell are all vicious pirates who were once famous in the sea. The bounty is generally over 100 million, and their strength is strong. However, at this moment, even they, after feeling the oppression of the extreme conqueror on Roland's body, couldn't help but feel panic in their hearts. Unconsciously, there was a great fear in the heart, and even the body was frightened and Vivi trembled in the infinite hell. In one iron cage after another, the prisoners opened their eyes and looked towards the source of hockey. If they want to know what happened, they want to know more. Who is the person who created the terrifying scene before? What happened to the previous breath? Is that Conqueror Hockey? No, how could Conqueror Hockey be like this? That's right, it's an exaggeration. This must be Logia's storm fruit ability. ... All over the infinite hell, the criminals in the cage lowered their voices, talking with their own horror and guessing. Logia's storm fruit is so naive, meow. With the cute, meow, character, the sharp-horned man who described the appearance was unusually rough and laughed sarcastically. Hey, evil king, what's so funny? What if it's not Logia's storm ability? That's it. The prisoners refuted the accusations. Vivi's pair of green cat eyes were full of shocks at the corner of the mouth of the evil king of Alo Pizarro. No, this kind of Conqueror Hockey, I've only seen it on that Roger bastard. No, the previous scene was already above Roger. Another cell, with rosacea, clown hair, and a rosy skin, the big barrel Bacchus shot murmured in shock. What did you say? Is that really Conqueror Hockey? Roger, referring to One Piece, King of Pirates Roger. Now that Lao Su is imprisoned, what is going on outside? I'm the One Piece, King of Pirates. The prisoners who heard the murmur of Vasco shot from the big barrel were all shocked. Ha, comparable to, no, the tyrannical spirit that surpasses Captain Roger. It finally appeared. The man that Captain Roger will never forget. I can't wait to play a game. A single cell in the depths of infinite hell. Muscles like a horned dragon exuding bursts of intimidating pressure. Douglas Bullet, the descendant of the devil, grinned. The seastone chain tied to his body was torn and rattled, as if it might break at any time. Another one-room cell adjacent to Bullet's cell. His whole body exuded elegance and nobility, and the old man, like an aloof noble earl, took a deep breath. But he couldn't suppress the vibrating color on his face. Even the famous Red the Aloof has some unforgettable events in his brilliant life history. Roland, you bastard, you are really back. Once in the last era, he was a legendary pirate who was enough to keep pace with Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion. Red the Aloof Patrick Redfield whispered. Boom! The ground made a soft sound of boom. It came from a large cage near the Red Earl. A giant who was imprisoned alone in a cage fell unconsciously to the ground. Shock, excitement, joy, etc. All kinds of emotions were intertwined on his big and shaven face. The final product of fusion is a silly smile. Falling thunder he. Giant Sol smiled stupidly. Conqueror shock that stunned everyone in the infinite hell before was as gentle as a spring breeze to Sol. Not only did not make his spirit feel the slightest oppression, on the contrary, it was as comfortable as the long-lost sunshine shining on him. When the breath passed over him, Sol felt as if a big hand patted his shoulder invisibly. Just like decades ago. How nostalgic that is. How lucky am I to be able to see Boss Llewellyn again in this life. Saul the giant said, laughed, and burst into tears. Chapter 532 Roland, Robin and Saul open black lens bracket 4/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. The deep-sea prison Impel Down has 4 underground floors, a searing hell. Kalala, the elevator shaft to the first floor of the sea runs at high speed. After a while, the elevator stopped at the 4th underground floor. So, as I said long ago, it's better if the elevator goes straight to the infinite hell. Magellan, this is your dereliction of duty. Deputy Director Hannibal took the opportunity to question him. None of my business, Hannibal. If you really want to blame it, go find the former designer of the great prison. Magellan choked back rarely. What did you say? Okay, all right, Director, Deputy Director, you all give me some time to calm down. The priority now is infinite hell. Hurry up and go to the elevator in the director's room to the 6th floor. Domino forcefully separated the two. Director Magellan, there is a situation. There are 6 underground levels of infinite hell. There are some abnormal situations in the infinite hell. Not long after Magellan and his party stepped out of the elevator, a jailer guard ran and rolled in front of the crowd, shouting with a look of anxiety and panic. Stand up and speak slowly, what's going on? Magellan asked solemnly. Yes. Jailer stood up and said, just now, the loud screams of the prisoners came from a certain listening worm in the infinite hell, it seems. It seems that there are trespassers already operating in the infinite hell, and those prisoners are asking for help from that person. If all the doors of the infinite hell are opened and the prisoners are freed. Having said this, the voice of the jailer guard came to an abrupt end, apparently too frightened to speak at the terrible event that might happen. Don't think too much, jailer, the things you have in your mind will never happen. Magellan looked firm and said decisively. How can you be sure it won't happen? Even a hero, right now to us Impel Down, he, an intruder. Hannibal scolded loudly. If something goes wrong in infinite hell, it's none of my business. It's all your responsibility, Magellan. After all, I don't know that person. Hannibal spoke again and again, trying to distance himself from the incident. But then again, if something really happened, wouldn't the position of the director belong to me? Thinking about it, I still have a little expectation. Hannibal thought in his heart, and honestly expressed his heart at the moment. Magellan. Domino, Sadi-chan et al. Ah, no, I accidentally said it again. Hanny, who had reacted with hindsight, quickly raised his head and covered his mouth. However, it was too late. A wisp of lilac poison entered Hannibal's mouth with the heat. Vomit. Under the effect of the poison gas, Hannibal retched in pain. Ha ha ha. Magellan suddenly laughed happily like a child. It's a daily little game between him and his brother Hannibal, who wants his place. Even at this critical moment, it can always ease the anxiety in his heart. Domino. Are these two children really a peace of mind? Director Magellan. Just then, another jailer guard stumbled towards Magellan and others. What's the matter? Magellan straightened his face and asked in a deep voice. The big thing is bad, Director Magellan. Just now, all kinds of phone bugs in the 6 underground levels of infinite hell have lost contact. The jailer guard shouted nervously and reported. What did you say? Magellan was shocked. It's not just that, there may be even worse things happening. According to the information from the partners on the 6th floor, the whole infinite hell is in the epicenter. The jailer cried out in horror. There is no more time to waste here. And now everyone goes to the infinite hell and prepares for the shock. Magellan waved his hand and gave the director's order. Ah, Magellan, it's all because of your previous poisonous gas. I'm going to have a big stomach ache now. Hannibal clutched his stomach and prepared to run away. Ghost knows what's going on in the infinite hell right now. I'd better pretend that my stomach hurts, hide and see what's going on. Hannibal said it again subconsciously. Next moment, A big hand grabbed his back collar and picked him up like a chicken. Hannibal, don't think about running away. You are also a part of the big prison, and you are in danger. Of course, you have to bear it together. Magellan opened his mouth with a smile, grabbed Hannibal and walked towards the elevator shaft. At the same time, Impel Down has 6 basement floors. In the huge infinite hell, the sound of footsteps can be clearly heard. This time I saw the figure that was free to move outside. The murderers in the cage dare not say any more. Any disrespectful and provocative words. They all held their tails, silent, daring to make a single sound. This is the deterrent from the bully. 3 minutes later, Roland took Roland to the depths of the infinite hell. Falling thunder. Falling thunder, he he he. A special burst of laughter came suddenly. Hear that unique laughter. The corner of Luo Lin's mouth unconsciously raised an arc. As for Robin, the look on the pretty face couldn't help but be in a trance. It was like hearing the most incredible sound in the world. As this voice, Saul. Chapter 533 Robin Joy. Shiryu of the Rain is shocking. Open black lens bracket 1/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. Falling thunder, he he he. Falling thunder, he he he. Under the shock of the extreme conqueror hockey storm, he fell into the infinite hell of absolute dead silence, and suddenly there was a burst of laughter. The laughter full of joy and excitement coming from a cage not far ahead. Roland and Robin's footsteps were at the same pace, and they stopped. It's still the same as before, nothing has changed. Luo Lin opened his mouth with emotion, and the corner of his mouth unconsciously raised a happy arc. At this moment, hearing that special laughter, Robin seemed to realize something. Unconsciously, he raised his slender hand and covered his small mouth, trying hard not to let himself cry out. From Waysung to the present, Robin has always been there, wondering who Roland took her through Annie's lobby, Impel Down, and who he wanted her to meet before. No matter how clever Robin's little brain is, it can't think of an answer no matter what. Until now. The laughter that left a deep impression on her life after hearing this. After the laughter that has directly or indirectly affected her 20 years of life. The answer is already clear. Olaha 20 years ago, the distant memories emerged one by one. Of that gentle giant named Saul gradually became clearer. Although they have only known each other for less than a week. But that moderate giant had a huge impact on her life. Finally, when O'Hara's Buster call broke out, the giant Saul chose to sacrifice his life without hesitation, in exchange for a chance for her. Listen to Robin, anyone born in this world will never be alone. You will definitely find a partner who is willing to protect yourself. You must work hard to survive with optimism, and continue to laugh even when you are in pain. This is Saul the giant, the last words she said. At the same time, it is also the belief that supports her coming alone. How to forget, how to forget. This is a great gift that will never be forgotten in a lifetime. Robin thought that Saul and O'Hara were also reduced to ashes under the cannon fire of Buster Call, and there will be no goodbye in this life. But things are always amazing. After digging up Roland in the underground palace north of Alabasta, her life took a second turning point. Various surprises followed. Now, even, Uncle, the person you want to bring me to meet, is Saul. Really, thank you. Robin bowed deeply, his eyes turned red unconsciously. Saul used to be my subordinate too. You must also want to see him again. Well, then go. Roland's big hand fell on Robin's head and rubbed it fondly. Robin clenched her red lips tightly, and raised her hand to wipe the sparkle from the corner of her eyes. Then the lotus stride lightly moved, and the first trot took a brisk pace towards the source of the laughter. He he he. At this moment, a gloomy laughter suddenly sounded from a single cell not far away. For a criminal to invade the 6th basement of Impel Down, you are really stupid. But to be able to get here successfully, I must admit that you do have some means. The man in the cell spoke to himself. After a moment of silence, That guy Magellan is really a useless idiot. Everyone else has already broken into the 6th floor and there is no movement at all. If I were there, this kind of thing would never happen. Without me as the head wardens, the iron wall of Impel Down is just a joke, hee. Aged man imprisoned in the cell, another trump card of Impel Down besides the director Magellan, guardian Shiryu of Chengyu spoke with pride. Hee. Hearing the boastful voice, Luo Lin, who had not intended to pay attention to him, stopped in his footsteps, and decided to delay for a while. Shiryu boy, how dare you say that? Luo Lin walked straight to Shiryu the Rain's cell, and the corner of his mouth raised a playful arc. Even if the previous layer has felt the terrifying and extraordinary haki from Roland from afar. As one of the strongest men in Impel Down, Shiryu of the Rain is still confident and proud. He was even thinking in his mind to take down this intruder, offsetting his merits and demerits, and exempting himself from his death reprieve. Or cooperate with it. However, his self-confidence, pride and all the small calculations, just lasted for a moment, were completely broken. It shattered together with his worldview. Because he saw the trespasser who came outside the cell. More because he recognized the identity of the person outside the door. That face, the face that hasn't changed even after decades, is also impressive to him. You are Marine Vice Admiral Roland. Impel Down, who only boasted about Heiko, guarded Shiryu of Chengyu, and his complexion suddenly changed. Chapter 534 Shiryu who was shocked to the point of insanity open black lens bracket 2/4 close black lens bracket. You are Marine Vice Admiral Rollins. Seeing the man who appeared outside his cell, Impel Down guard Shiryu of Chengyu's eyes suddenly widened, and he couldn't help screaming in surprise. Under the control of the emotion called shock, his voice raised more than an octave. It was so clear in the dead silence of the infinite hell. The cigar in Shiryu's mouth fell to the ground, but he didn't realize it. The whole person seemed to be in a state of rigidity, with cold sweat on his forehead, no longer the previous confidence and arrogance. He looked at the man in front of him. Shiryu of the Rain not be shocked. After all, it is a legend that has disappeared for decades. Now it appears in this world again, in front of him. How incredible is this incident? It's going to shatter his worldview. Ha. The Impel Down Warden, the man whose strength is second only to Warden Magellan, Shiryu of the Rain, is now gasping for breath without an image. The ground, the sparks of the cigar smoke flickered on and off, illuminating Shiryu's square face with an extremely shocked expression. It's impossible to be a human or a ghost. How could this kind of thing happen? You disappeared from this world 36 years ago. Shiryu of the Rain looked at Luo Lin outside the cell, shaking his head in disbelief. I see. After a while, Shiryu seemed to have thought of something. A look of surprise flashed across his face full of shock. What do you know? The teasing color at the corner of Luo Lin's mouth was even more serious. Same with Prison Commissioner Magellan. Shiryu of the Rain, who serves as the head guard, is also a native of this deep-sea prison. Been subjected to the dark baptism of Impel Down since he was a child. Compared with ordinary children, their psychology will inevitably be distorted. Just that Shiryu's luck is not as good as Mazi. Or maybe it was his own choice, and he went into the darkness with his own hands. That was about 38 years ago. One day, Luo Lin, who was escorting pirates to Impel Down as usual, happened to meet Shiryu, who was only 4 years old when he was with Magellan. Who had become a complete fan of Vice Admiral Rollins at that time, tried his best to tell the young Shiryu about Roland's glorious deeds. Maybe it's because Magellan's statement is too exaggerated. Or maybe it was because of what the elders of Impel Down had instilled in the young Shiryu. Magellan's speech was not endorsed by Shiryu. Instead, it aroused his rebellious psychology. After that, he refused Roland's guidance several times. After several unsuccessful attempts, Roland did not insist. After all, everyone has their own choices. Since then, Shiryu has also grown up according to his original life trajectory. Eventually became the dark side of this deep-sea prison, Impel Down. Becoming the de facto second in command of Impel Down, Shiryu of the Rain has become even more aggressive. Use your authority to kill the prisoners in Impel Down from time to time. It also annoyed Magellan, and was regarded as a criminal and sent to infinite hell, waiting for a trial from a military court. Without Roland's intrusion. Follow the trajectory of the original plot. Shiryu, who was given a suspended death sentence, will defect and join the Blackbeards in the Marineford incident shortly after. Just now. This kind of thing is unlikely to happen. I see. In Luo Lin's eyes faintly recalling the past. Shiryu of the Rain, who had lost his soul in the cell, nodded again firmly. It's an illusion, right? It's the illusion created by your ability that allowed me to see this missing marine hero. I guess it should be right. Shiryu of the Rain guessed confidently. Huh. Shiryu of the Rain's outrageous guess, Luo Lin couldn't help but shook his head with a laugh. 4. Facts beyond my imagination, or unwilling to believe. People can always find another reason they think is more correct to deceive and convince themselves. Shiryu is in such a state right now. What's so funny about that? Hero. Marine hero Roland can't be seen again. He's been wiped from history. Seeing the teasing smile on Luo Lin's face, Shiryu of the Rain suddenly roared emotionally. The roar is over. Shiryu suddenly grinned again. It doesn't matter. Just now, was it your devil fruit ability or something else? You were able to escape everyone's eyes and quietly invaded the 6th floor of Impel Down. I recognize your strength. It's just that since it has been discovered, it will be difficult to go out again. I have a proposal here. If you don't mind, do you want to join forces with me? Don't doubt, although I am the chief guard here, but because of being framed by Magellan, I am now a death row prisoner like the people here. For my own life, I can only leave here, so you should rest assured. Well, as long as there is my assistance, it will not be difficult to escape this impregnable wall. Shiryu opened his mouth with a frantic look on his face. Finally, an invitation to the alliance was issued to Roland. Even saying this kind of thing shows how chaotic his spirit has been. You're really hopeless, Shiryu kid, give me a little wake up. Luo Lin looked at Shiryu in the cell, his eyes gradually deepened. Kang. Chapter 535 He is the marine hero who defeated the overlord of the sea. Open black lens bracket 3/4 close black lens bracket. Shiryu kid, give me a little wake up. Roland looked indifferently at Shiryu of the Rain who was in a daze. There seemed to be a bright sword light flashing in his eyes. Kang. Next second. A clang like a real sword unsheathed resounded in this infinite hell. Immediately after. Terrifying sword intent and sword force that were so sharp that they could cut through the sky burst out from Luo Lin's body. In an instant, it swept away in all directions. Ah ah ah. Terrible screams rang out. Shiryu, who is facing Luo Lin's extreme sword intent, and the other murderers in the nearby cages. As in previous Conqueror hockey storms. The fierce sword intent raging this time is still an indiscriminate impact. The ethereal and invisible sword intent is scattered like catkins. Silently cut off the cage and chains that were mixed with sea stone. But the prisoners were not happy at all. Because their bodies were also cut open. Blood splattered one after another. The earth is stained with blood. A long time. The most extreme sword in the world bursting out from Luo Lin's body converges. Shiryu of the Rain in the cage is in tatters. By that terrifying sword intent. Blood was dripping, almost dyeing him into a bloody man, looking extremely penetrating. However, compared to the pain from the body. From Shiryu's heart still dominated his whole being. There are many great swords on this sea. Shiryu was deeply impressed by how terrifying the sword intent that Roland had shown earlier. This extremely terrifying sword intent was already far above him. In front of Luo Lin's sword intent, a so-called great swordsman is like a 3-year-old child with a sharp blade, the difference cannot be calculated by reason. No matter how he resisted, he was like duckweed in a storm, wandering uncertainly. Vice Admiral Rawlins 38 years ago. Obviously, over the past few decades, he has also become stronger. Become, not much weaker than Magellan, whom Roland took a fancy to. But in front of the legendary hero, nothing seems to have changed. Hero Roland, are you number one in the world now? Cage, Shiryu, the Rain of Blood, was tragically Isho. He opened his arms and fell down weakly in a big shape. You're still a long way off, kid. Roland ignored Shiryu in the cage and turned to leave. It wasn't until a long time after Roland left, which fell into absolute dead silence, where the needles could be heard, were finally relieved. Gudong. Gudong, the voices of people's Adam's apple rolling hard one after another. How holy is he? Not only is hockey incomparable, but he is also an unfathomable great swordsman. First it was the special conqueror hockey that was as strong as a monster. Now it's the same terrifying extreme sword. It's really scary. That man's sword. Is he the greatest swordsman in the world? No, the world's #1 swordsman before I was imprisoned was that hawk-eyed Mahawk. Where did he come from? The prisoners in the various cages screamed in uncontrollable shock. I think I heard that bastard Shiryu call him Vice Admiral Roland. Is he Vice Admiral from Marine Headquarters? Another pirate suddenly spoke up. Is there still such a terrifying Vice Admiral in the Marine Headquarters? Could he be more terrifying than that Vice Admiral Garp? Hero Vice Admiral Garp Hero. Roland. It's him. How is this possible? Evil King Avalo Pizarro seemed to have thought of something. A pair of cat's eyes is full of green light. The hair on the head is also standing on end due to the extreme shock and shock. Evil King, what do you know? Who the hell is that man? Hero Roland, I've never heard of Marine having such a #1 character. The big pirates in the vicinity noticed the gaffe of the Evil King, Avalo Pizarro, and hurriedly asked. That man, that bastard named Roland, he is the same as Bastard Garp, the Marine hero who defeated the Ocean Lord Rox 36 years ago. He actually appeared alive. Evil King, Avalo Pizarro, could no longer suppress the shock in his heart and cried out. What did you say? Nani? ... Chapter 536 The Earth-Shattering Secret History of the Sea Open Black Lens Bracket 4/4 for Full Order Close Black Lens Bracket. Hey, kid, did you hear that man's true identity? The heated discussion about the name of the hero Roland spreads across this infinite hell at the fastest speed. Kid and Killer, who were locked on the edge of hell, heard the shocking news. Ah, of course I heard that too. Captain Eustace Kidd spoke in a deep voice, with a thick haze covering his eyes. It's unbelievable that man, that unimaginably powerful being is another Marine's hero, existing enough to be alongside that Garp. Killer murmured unconsciously. A gust of cool air rushed from the soles of his feet all the way to the Tianling cover. Thinking that a few months ago, they actually fought against such an existence. Killer's heart is unconsciously born with great fear. The body trembled uncontrollably. Hero Roland. It's that bastard. No wonder I looked a little familiar to him before, that bastard. Marine is still alive. The long-nosed vicious female pirate who was imprisoned in another area, Katerina Devon gritted her teeth, and her eyes were full of fierce light. Crescent Moon Hunter, do you know that? The guy named Roland, is he really the same as Garp, the hero of Marine? And that, who is Rox, the master of the sea? The other new generation pirates nearby couldn't help but keep asking questions. Of course I know, that bastard. If it weren't for them, how would the once prosperous kingdom of Rox collapse? Katerina Devon gritted her teeth fiercely. 36 years ago, the hero who defeated the Rox pirates, the overlord of the sea, disappeared in the same year and became a legendary man. He really came back. ... Although I haven't experienced that era, I have seen reports about that man in the newspapers more than once. There is no doubt that in that era, he was the most dazzling new star above the sea. Ah, I remember where I heard this name. I was caught by that guy's original subordinates. Under the shock of the hero Roland's name, the originally dead infinite hell was once again lively and noisy. Very few old people like the Red Earl who have experienced that era as prisoners in this infinite hell now. Those pirates who were beaten into impelled down by Rollins decades ago have almost died. But the pirates here are not the new generation who don't know anything. Most of them were prisoners in their 40s and 50s, even if they had not had direct contact with Rollins, they had seen reports about Rollins in the newspapers more than once. Even if one person knows very little. But when the information known by a group of people gathers together, it is enough to piece together the secret history of the sea that was covered up by the government's big hand. An emotion called shock spreads in this no prison. At the same time, when the murderers of the infinite hell were shocked and panicked for the name of the hero Roland. The deepest part of this dark prison. In front of a huge prison. And meets the giant who once saved her. Inside and outside the cell. One big and one small, looked at each other with their eyes. Bright smiles rose from both of their faces. Robin, is that you? Giant Saul screamed with shock and joy. It's me, I'm Robin, Saul. Robin covered his red lips with his slender hands, and there were tears of joy in his big eyes. Dai lei hee hee, yes, this time Boss Luo Lin also brought you along. I'm really happy to see you again, Dai lei hee hee. Giant Saul burst out laughing, tears of equal joy splattered. It's really nice, Saul, it's really nice that you're still alive. Tears called joy finally fell from the corners of Robin's eyes uncontrollably. Hee, don't cry, Robin, it's a good day to laugh. Saul opened his mouth. Robin nodded heavily. Just like when he was a child, he laughed happily with Saul, becoming an alternative and unique landscape in this gloomy infinite hell. After a while, Robin, who had laughed and cried, sat opposite Saul across the cage's iron bars. Robin, I already know from Kuzan. Saul opened his mouth. Kuzan, Admiral Kuzan. Robin was taken aback. Yeah, it's really thanks to Kuzan that I survived, and he's come to see me every now and then over the years, so I know you, they found the best buddy in the world. I'm really happy for you. Saul laughed. Robin nodded. Uncle, he is the most powerful person in the world. Robin's mouth raised involuntarily. When talking about Luo Lin, I only felt that the apex of my heart was about to float. Uncle. Hearing Robin's name, Saul was taken aback for a moment. Respond in a moment. Falling thunder he. Saul, who saw through Robin's thoughts, couldn't help laughing again. By the way, Robin, Boss Roland, I can't wait to see Boss again. Saul opened his mouth. After Saul's voice fell. The originally silent infinite hell suddenly sounded a shocking uproar. At the same time, a clear footstep sounded not far away. Saul, long time no see. Chapter 537 I work all my life, why do I need permission from others? 1/4 for subscription. Saul, long time no see. Looking at the familiar old man not far ahead, Luo Lin's mouth could not help but open a big arc. Boss. Saul in the cage stared blankly at Luo Lin who was coming step by step. The expression on a giant's face changed from sluggishness to joy, and finally turned into excitement, beyond words. Boss Roland. Giant Saul's voice was raised more than an octave. Crash la la, the chains that bound his huge body were ripped by the excited Saul. A soft click sounded. Roland's right hand fell on Saul's cage. With the blooming of several dazzling white lights, the door locks made of sea stone were shattered neatly. Then the white light flashed again. Bound Saul also shattered. After 20 years, Saul, who had regained his freedom, squatted down for the first time. A pair of giant hands carefully picked up Luo Lin. Boss Luo Lin, I can still see it again. Boss, if you come back alive, I have no regrets even if I die now. Saul stared at the familiar face in front of him that was exactly the same as it was decades ago, and his heart was so excited that he couldn't help himself. What nonsense, Saul, everyone is still waiting for you to go back and have a drink together. Roland flicked his fingers in the air. Index finger and middle finger of the right hand seemed to cross the space and touched Saul's forehead. Whoops. Saul groaned in pain. After a while, he laughed silly again. Diaole hee hee hee, yes, boss, you are back. Of course everyone on the ship had to get together before. I also want to have a drink with everyone again, but... Speaking of which... The smile on Saul's face subsided, and his face became a little more serious. Boss Luo Lin, I want to ask you something. You are here today, yes? Wait, Saul finished. Luo Lin, who was standing in his palm, waved his hand. This see, where I want to go, why should I get permission from others? Roland Hockey's opening. It really is. Saul nodded. Actually, he already knew when he saw Robin appear. Roland went to impel down this time. I'm afraid he didn't go through any formal channels. Trespasser in a big prison. Think of it. Saul's expression suddenly became a little worried. In Saul's mind, Roland is a marine hero. However, it was because of him that he forced his way into Impel Down, and because of him, he would be charged with prison robbery. This is a discredit to Roland's heroic name. Thinking of this, Saul felt infinite self-blame in his heart. Saul. Luo Lin, who read the entanglement in the hearts of the giant's subordinates with his mind-reading technique, suddenly let out a majestic cry. Yes. Hearing Roland's majestic voice, Saul subconsciously stood upright, his body straight. Do you still know who I am to you? Roland asked. You are my boss. Saul answered without hesitation. If I can't even save my little brother, and watch my little brother suffer in hell, what qualifications do I have to be your boss? Roland said naturally. Boss Roland, but... The so-called hero's name has no meaning to me at all. What else do you have to worry about? Roland spoke softly. Old Luo Lin. Big, I know. The confusion and self-blame on Saul's face disappeared, and he nodded firmly. Take one step. Since being imprisoned here 20 years ago, Saul has left the confines of the cage, that's right. Feeling the change in Saul's mentality, Roland also nodded with a smile. The air outside is really better than the air inside. Saul took a deep breath and sighed excitedly. In the same infinite hell, the front and back are only a few meters apart, and the air quality is of course the same. The only difference is the position of one's own body, the difference between freedom or not. Saul, it's my turn to tell you my story this time. Robin smiled and wiped the glittering eyes from the corners of his eyes. Saul nodded, spread his palms, and carried Robin on his shoulders. Please let me hear the adventures of you and your boss, Robin. Saul opened his mouth with interest. Tell the story after you go out. Saul, take Robin out first, and I'll go meet someone later. Roland spoke calmly. Saying that, his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of another small single cell not far away. Who is still elegant and noble even when he is in prison. The corners of Luo Lin's mouth twitched again unconsciously. Yo, Ryder, you're not even going to say hello after so many years of old friends come over. ... Chapter 538 Old Friend. Rollins and the Red Earl. Open black lens bracket 2/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. Impel Down has 6 underground floors, infinite hell. As the name of the hero Roland spread, the shock and uproar of the prisoners resounded throughout the infinite hell. However, a certain area in the depths of this prison is still silent. Not because the prisoners here are strong enough to ignore the shock of Marine's other hero. But because of that hero, Roland is here. Not long ago, the prisoners who had felt Roland's haughty and sword intent from a distance from afar. At this moment, when I really saw the legendary hero, I naturally did not dare to make any noise. He didn't even dare to breathe. Fear of annoyed Luo Lin, thus incurring the calamity of his own death. Although the days of captivity were difficult, the prisoners did not want to die. The prisoners watched with some envy in their horror. Roland opened the cage of the giant Saul and lifted the shackles from him. After a while, Roland's figure flashed and disappeared from the prison of the giant creature. When it reappeared, it was already in the human prison zone. Ah! Looking at Luo Lin, who suddenly appeared within 10 meters from him. The prisoners in the cell screamed in horror unconsciously. After shouting, he hurriedly raised his hand to cover his mouth, and his wide eyes were full of astonishment. Fortunately, to the despair of the prisoners, nothing happened. Heroes don't come just for them. In the cage that Roland is looking at is the Red Earl Red, the aloof Patrick Redfield. Yo, Ryder, the old friend of so many years is here. You don't even say hello, it's really inappropriate. Luo Lin looked at the elegant old man on the other side of the iron fence and said with a smile. Listening to Luo Lin's familiar greeting, he has always been calm and calm. Redfield's eyes, who can't shake his heart, unconsciously jumped suddenly. It exposed the emotions that he couldn't calm down at the moment. How can I be calm and how can I ignore it? After all, the person standing on the other side of the iron fence. In a certain period of time in the past, he had left a very deep impression on him. It was really an unforgettable past. If possible, Ryder would not want to recall it in his life. However, it backfired. Just as he was almost burying the past, ready to die of old age in peace at Impel Down. The man who once made him grit his teeth appeared in front of his eyes once again. Looking at the face that was exactly the same as it was decades ago, without the slightest change. Red Earl's usual elegant temperament is no longer. Take a few deep breaths, trying to suppress the vibrations in your heart. However, the memories of the past in my mind. Memories are one after another that can't be restrained. You bastard, you're not dead yet. Finally, Red Earl Ryder looked up and looked at Roland outside the prison door with a bad expression. Hee. Roland grinned isho. I told you a long time ago that I am immortal, but you, Ryder, haven't seen you for decades, and you have been reduced to this, tisk tisk tisk. Why not? I'm tired of staying outside, can't I change to a leisurely place to retire? Red the aloof Redfield is no longer alone. In order to cover up his predicament, he even blurted out the words of retirement in Impel Down. Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't believe such an outrageous excuse. Redfield also seemed to have reacted, and an old face suddenly showed a constipation-like expression. Whether it was before or now, it has always been like this. As long as this man stands here, even if he doesn't say anything, just looking at it will make him angry, and then he will lose his sense of normalcy. What irritated Ryder even more was that Roland didn't know what method he used, and he even learned observation hockey, who was born to read people's hearts. To learn it, and even show it off to him, use it on him, and spy on his inner secret. It's really hateful. Hey, Ryder, why am I showing off again? It's just a read prediction in the battle, and I already know that you are a fan of that guy Brooke, but it's not. Read from your memory. Roland smiled. Crunch. Lonely Ryder gritted his teeth, and the old face was full of annoyance. He just thought about this. Luo Lin has already used his tricks to read, it's too deceiving. But, even so, what can he do now as a prisoner? Roland, how is Mr. Brooke now? After a while, Ryder, who finally calmed down his inner turmoil, spoke. Brooke, that guy is very good. He's living with me now. How do you want to get out of this hell? Anyway, it's a rare visit, so it doesn't make any difference to bring one or two. Roland grinned. Chapter 539 Red Earl's Rich Brain Supplement and Imagination Open black lens bracket 3/4 close black lens bracket. How about Writer? Looking at past love, it's not impossible for me to catch you today. Roland looked at the Red Earl in the cage with a calm expression, and the corners of his mouth gradually raised an arc. Hear the words. Red Earl Writer couldn't help being stunned, then fell silent. The annoyed look on the old face solidified, and then turned serious. Those stern and demonic eyes like vampires gradually deepened. The previous era, he was one of the strongest legends in the sea, comparable to Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion Shaki. As a loner on the sea, he is the most free when he is alone. Acting from the heart, unrestrained, galloping on the sea forever, full of joy. At that time, he was a character like a sea ranger. Never bully the weak, and even what he does often can be called a chivalrous person. It's just that it all changed for the sake of a certain Tenryubito. Of the crime of beheading the world noble Tenryubito. Red Earl Writer, who was originally similar to a bounty hunter, was officially included in the ranks of the most evil criminals by the world government and marine. Under the deliberate smear of the government, his reputation as a ranger in the sea was ruined. Become the most notorious existence on this sea and feared by ordinary people. But even so, Redfield didn't feel much anger in his heart either. This is of course not because of its size. It was because Writer, who was born to awaken and read people's hearts, observation hockey, had long been accustomed to seeing the ugliness and evil in the world. Since then, Red Earl Writer's temperament has become more and more withdrawn. Writer, who no longer cared about the evaluation of the world, became more and more reckless in his actions. In the end, it also led to a comprehensive siege by Marine. A shopping spree with Marine Marshal Kong. After defeating Kong, Red Earl Writer himself fell to the ground from exhaustion. Garp, who was on the sidelines, picked it up and entered Impel Down. From then on began a decades-long shady life as a prisoner. A man like Red Earl Writer, who has been free for most of his life, is naturally unwilling to sink forever. Although when I told Roland just now, his attitude was very tough, and he expressed that he wanted to retire in Impel Down. However, this is only his last strong disguise in front of his former, old enemy. Think of the old foe. Red the aloof Redfield, eyes suddenly became deeper. 46 years ago, Hong, who was a sea ranger, encountered Luo Lin for the first time in the sea. The two had a fight inexplicably, and Luo Lin inexplicably obtained his mind-reading observation hockey. But these are little things. The two do not know each other. At that time, Roland even invited him to join the team. It's just that Writer, who just wanted to listen to the music of the Rumpa Pirates again, decisively refused Roland's invitation. The second meeting was 3 years later. The location of Brooke, the last survivor of the Rumpa Pirates. Writer searched for half a year in the Devil's Triangle by himself, but couldn't find it. As long as it was Luo Lin who was fooling him, he just left after cursing. Writer didn't know that Roland wasn't playing tricks on him until he saw Brooke turned into a skeleton. It's just that his luck was so bad. Several times since then, after he beheaded Tenryubito, Luo Lin, who came to him with a warship, did not have any hostility towards him. Not even just Rollins. All the sailors of the warship back then were united. No one had any objection to Roland and his behavior of drinking and drinking. Not at all. Writer, who has mind-reading observation hockey, knows this best. At that time, the atmosphere on the Roland warship was indeed enviable. Even Writer once regretted rejecting Roland's invitation. It's just that there is no regret medicine in the world. Writer, who had become one of the top criminals in the sea at that time, naturally had no chance of being whitewashed. Think about those things from the past. Was indignant when he saw Roland again, only felt that the smiling face outside the door didn't seem so abhorrent anymore. Not right. After a while, the solitary Writer seemed to have thought of it, and hurriedly shook his head. His expression became solemn again. The one who understands people's heart the most, he knows that his previous. The beauty of Luo Lin in his memories. Those beautifications of the good aspects of Roland were actually just because he wanted to use Roland's hand to leave this hellish place. But he's reacting now. Luo Lin rescued him, and he must have to pay enough price. As for this price, Red Earl Writer unconsciously appeared in his mind the image of Roland sitting high on the throne, wanton laughing and bossing him down on one knee. Think about it and get angry. More he thought about it, the little bit of beauty he had imagined in Roland was broken. At the same time, Roland, who read Writer's inner picture. After not seeing him for decades, this old vampire's strength has not grown long, and his brain and imagination ability has become more and more abundant. Luo Lin didn't even know that he even had the qualifications to be a dazed king. Enough, Writer, the brain supplement is almost here. In a word, you can't leave. Roland also didn't want to continue wrangling with this old vampire. Go. Roland, yeah. Chapter 540 Read the Aloof joins. Writer's shock. Open black lens bracket 4/4 for subscription close black lens bracket. One word, let's go. Who was amused by Red Earl Writer's crazy brain supplement, was no longer interested in wrangling with him, and spoke bluntly. At the same time as he spoke, he turned his body halfway and was about to leave. After reading Writer's thoughts and knowing the other party's resentment towards him, Luo Lin didn't have much hope for recruiting this powerful and arrogant old man as a thug. However, the reality is often unexpected. Even an existence like Roland will encounter an unpredictable future. Just as Roland was about to turn around and leave, the elegant old man in the single cell finally stopped being silent. Go. Read the aloof Redfield's answer was crisp. Roland's footsteps stopped, listening to Writer's unexpected answer. Rao is Luo Lin, and he can't help but raise his eyebrows unexpectedly. He, even observation hockey, who can read people's hearts, is not omnipotent. The corner of Red Earl Writer's mouth raised a smug arc. I don't want it in my heart, but I'm still very honest in my mouth. Roland shook his head helplessly. The door lock of Writer's cell slammed down. Writer, Aojiao, turned his head and snorted. Writer, since you want to leave, you should have made enough sense. Roland laughed. At the same time, a long series of spoof pictures appeared in my heart. He also read the expression on the old face of Red Earl Writer, who was thinking of Roland's heart. No longer the previous pride, his face turned blue and white, obviously out of anger. There is no gun smoke confrontation between the mind readers. In the end, Rollins had the upper hand. A soft click sounded. The chains tied to Writer also shattered. Writer, who had felt the breath of freedom after a long absence, even ignored the stimulation of the horrible images in Roland's heart before. The corners of his mouth twitched in an involuntary smile. Let's go. Roland grinned isho and took the lead. Writer, who was intoxicated, followed suit. 1 step. 2 steps. Just as Roland and Writer were about to disappear from the sight of the prisoners in this area, the commotion suddenly exploded. Hero Roland, please take me with you too, please. A pirate prisoner pleaded earnestly. When the pirate's words fell, like a rock that stirs up 1,000 waves, the huge impel down 6 underground floors of infinite hell was an instant sensation. Yeah, Hero Luo Lin, anyway. I've already put 2 of them, and I'm not bad for this one. This is the plea of my life, please take me to see the sea again. Hero Luo Lin, as long as you can take me out, my life is yours. I am also me, as long as I can go out, no matter. A cow or a horse, I have no complaints. Hero Luo Lin, please, my 80-year-old mother is still waiting for me to go back. I want to serve her well before she dies. The pleadings of the prisoners echoed in the infinite hell. After witnessing Saul and Red Earl Writer get out of trouble and regain their freedom, the murderers who were also imprisoned were almost blushing with jealousy. If you can really go out, who can't be tempted so at this moment, no matter how violent and cruel pirates were before? At the moment, keep your posture to a minimum. He pretended to be harmless to humans and animals, and his words were even more sincere. I want to show affection to Luo Lin, and move with reason, in exchange for my freedom. It's just that for Rollins, who have mind reading observation hockey, they are the perfect disguise of self-confidence, like someone who runs under the sun. Not the slightest blocking effect. This world is still as ugly as ever. Red Earl Writer, who is also proficient in mind reading observation hockey, said with emotion. There are two things in this world that can't be looked at directly, one is the sun, and the other is the human heart. Roland spoke softly. Hearing this, Red Earl Writer couldn't help being stunned. After a while. It makes sense. Red Earl Writer nodded in agreement. The other side. Seeing that his own low voice was completely ignored by Luo Lin. The nature of some prisoners was immediately exposed, and they began to attack with all kinds of foul language to make up for their previous loss of face. In addition, some prisoners still did not give up. Fight fiercely with the prisoners in the same cage, trying to show Luo Lin his strength and value. It can't be said that this move is completely ineffective. At least Roland's footsteps have stopped. You don't really want to include all the murderers in this infinite hell. It's impossible, even you, it's absolutely impossible to control so many lawless people. He read about the situation in the sea from Admiral Kuzan, and the Red Earl, who knew Roland's current situation, widened his eyes in surprise. Hee. Roland didn't answer, just said meaningfully Isho. After a while. Reading Roland's true thoughts and what he really wants to do. Writer's old face instantly showed a look of extreme astonishment. Do you want to wash this place with blood? The Red Earl's eyes widened in shock. Why not?